Something happened which changed my life. Get this email, I love what you're doing, let me know how I can help. Best Steve as jobs at apple.com.
Wow.
We were like, look, we are getting a lot of backlash. And his response was, you keep doing what you're doing, you'll prove the critics wrong.
You started from Calcutta and now you build a company and sold it for $350 million. What a journey.
As the saying goes, it took us 14 years to become an overnight success. We got a lot of fame, but I knew the reality, the business was very poor.
Yeah.
We need to do something, otherwise we can't survive. We had to make a very big call. Do we stick with our product or should we move to services? And that pivot made YML what YML became. Our mission became, we export Silicon Valley to the world, where Silicon Valley is not a zip code, but it's a mindset.
You were saying it could have been $1 billion outcome.
It could have been, yeah, absolutely. We could have built a company which was probably 5 times bigger because the opportunity was unbelievable.
Hi, this is Siddharth Aluwalia. Welcome to the Neon Show. I'm your host and managing partner at Neon Fund, a fund that invests in the best of enterprise AI companies between US and India corridor like Atomic Work, SpotDraft, CloudSec. Today, I have a very, very dear friend with me. He and I go long back, and it's so special that, through this podcast, we'll be the first one to share his journey. Ashish Toshniwal, founder of YML and 10Care. Ashish, so glad to have you on the Neon Show today.
Very thrilled to be here, man.
Your journey is very inspiring, right? You started from Kolkata, lived in a 15-member home with one washroom, and now you build a company and sold it for $350 million. It had like 25 million EBITDA at its peak. What a journey.
Yeah, I think, it worked out. It took us 14 years. And, as the saying goes, it took us 14 years to become an overnight success.
And what I'm excited about is you are just 43 right now. You look like 33.
Thanks for saying that. I don't think my kids agree, but sure.
But it's amazing what you have accomplished, at such a young age. And the commendable thing is your company was completely bootstrapped.
Yeah. And in the Bay Area, if you're bootstrapping your business, people look at you as if like something is wrong with you because it is unheard of. I think like raising money is such a badge of honor instead of like, how you're servicing your clients, your growth rates, all those things. And honestly, like for 6-7 years, I also was very skeptical of like, look, we have never raised money and where are we going? I used to question myself. I used to read TechCrunch and, you would always see all these like startups raising so much money. And then by the time VC started approaching us and, few people wanted to put money in, we did not need to raise money. So we were like self-sufficient and then, never thought of raising ever.
But the most interesting other part is you did another thing contradictory. YML was a product design and engineering services company. People think of services like a lifestyle business.
Yeah.
And you're sitting in the epicenter of products.
Yeah. See, Sid, what I've realized is I don't want to build like idealistic businesses which are not grounded in realities. Okay. What that means is I want to build something which people love and people want. And in fact, if I walk you through the pivots we have had, the first idea we had was an idea of launching a classified site in India. And we were in Austin, me and my co-founder. And this was 2006, by the way.
You were what, 22?
24 in 2006.
Just out of Purdue.
Just out of Purdue. And I got a job at Dell Computers. In fact, my co-founder, we both went to college together. We both did our engineering at Purdue. And then he was the smart one. He graduated 6 months early. He moved to Austin, Texas. Then I followed him after 6 months. And I call him up, Sumit, I'm here, got a full-time job here. Where are you? So he's like, Warner Ranch Drive. I'm like, me too. And then he's asking me, okay, which apartment? I'm like, this apartment. And he's like, me too. He's asked me, what's your apartment number? I'm like, 933. He asked me just to walk out. And he walks out of the apartment. I walk out, and we share the common wall.
Wow.
And there are probably more than 600 apartments in this complex.
Okay.
And I would say that is serendipity. And I think that is the fact that like we lived right next to each other. We cooked up a lot of ideas before even YML, became successful, right? Like, so the first idea was classified site. We launched it. It didn't really do
full time while doing that.
No, I was doing it on the side, experimenting it. And plus, like, if you're on visa in the US, you really need to find traction before you actually do that full time. So that was my first idea. Me and my co-founder, we worked on it like together on this. And then second idea was like Groupon, and that didn't do very well. We launched it. Third idea was around Facebook apps.
Okay.
And my co-founder, he did a course in Facebook apps, and he did his master's in Stanford. So he became an expert in Facebook apps. And that actually did well for some time until Facebook changed its policy and you couldn't like launch any more apps.
Yeah.
And the traffic dropped overnight. So that business was done. Then something happened which changed my life, which was, we worked on this app called Intro to Letters, ABCD 1, 2, 3, 4, simple app number 55, and we launch it. And, get this email. I love what you're doing. Let me know how I can help. Best Steve. sjobs@apple.com.
Wow.
And we are like, there's no way this is true because this definitely looks fake. And we went back and forth, with Steve Jobs. And we were like, look, we are getting a lot of backlash from Montessori School because we are bringing technology to Montessori School of Thinking. And his response was, you keep doing what you're doing, you'll prove the critics wrong.
And how many emails exchange was this?
This was like 2-3 emails exchange. Unfortunately, Steve Jobs was not also keeping well
so he could
during
not
that
meet you
time.
In person?
So unfortunately, he could not meet us during that time. This was 2009-10, and I think he passed away 1 or 2 years after that. And it was inspiring for us because until this point, we were doing things which only we cared about. Nobody else did.
And you were full-time in this or not yet?
So we were still experimenting, right? And so what happened was once we start getting, obviously, validation from Steve Jobs, I jumped on it full-time right around that time. And this was literally, again, 6 months after App Store was launched. And we go full-time, and we are building great apps, by the way.
This is 2009?
2009, March is when I jump on it full-time, right? And we are building great apps, and what we see is it does really well for 3 months, 6 months, and the traffic drops after that. So it became a great craze, and it was such a different form factor. Before, like, iPhone, there was no such thing as mobile engineering, mobile design, right? Like, there was no such thing. And we brought a lot of, industry standards on design, engineering. And actually, Apple became a client too, after a few years.
You were designing apps for Apple?
So we were working with Apple on some, healthcare initiatives. And this was like working with their team, healthcare institutes, and we were the iOS expert. So bringing all three together to do, healthcare initiatives and stuff. And the big thing here was once we launched all these apps, it never did well. In the long run, it made us famous. So, we were on Wall Street Journal, CNN, CNBC. We got a lot of fame, but I knew the reality. The business was very poor.
Yeah.
That's when we were like feeling the need. We need to do something, otherwise we can't survive.
So these apps, what I understand is really became popular. Like they were obviously like top 10 charts or top 20 charts, but you never made money.
We never made money in a sustainable way, right? It will show a lot of false positives. Like you feel like, man, look, like everyone is appreciating this, but we know we are not making money. And at that point, what happened, a lot of these big companies, whether it's Safeway or Salesforce or like SAP, they were like, look, this mobile thing is very unique. It requires iOS engineering. All our people are on the web. We don't have the skill set. We want to work with you.
And they reach inbound to you?
All inbound.
How is that possible?
So what happened was we got really famous on few Facebook groups. And we were called the app guys in the valley.
It was just you and Sumit, nobody else.
It was just me, Sumit, and actually my wife was also working with us back then.
Back then you were married?
Yeah, I was married.
With no money?
With no money, and that's not a good position to be in. And, we were like onboarding contractors just to keep the cash flow low. Cash burn low. And
what do you mean by onboarding contractors?
Like whenever we had a need, we would onboard a contractor. Once the need is gone, we would let them go.
Okay, for your own app development.
For our own app development. And then sometimes when we got this contract, from these big companies, we were like, these are all one-off things. It's may not be sustainable, so I don't want to hire. But what started happening was we became very famous as the app guys in the valley.
But when did you shift to the valley?
We were always in the valley.
You said you initially started.
Right. So in Austin, I moved from Austin to Valley in 2008. Sumit moved probably 2006-07 for his Stanford degree. And then we have been always in the Valley after that.
Okay.
So, when these things were happening, all these inbound requests, we thought it would be temporary.
Yeah, because companies need app only one time and...
Exactly, right? That's exactly what we thought. But the phone kept on ringing and we had to make a very big call. Do we stick with our product ideas or should we move to services? And right around that time, Zuckerberg, Larry Page came out saying Facebook, Google are mobile first company, which is happening now with AI first, right? And Sumit and I discussed how about we actually pivot to make other companies mobile first. And that pivot, made YML what YML became. That was the most successful pivot.
And which year was this?
This was, I think, 2012-ish.
So for 3-4 years after
3-4 years, we were just, doing things, experiments, and
surviving on ramen.
Surviving and honestly, first few years were really hard. Where Sumit and I, we both were on visa. We never had any kind of savings. All our friends are in Google and Facebook, and they're buying houses, and we are struggling to pay rent. And, we had a lot of doubts during that time. But I think looking back, that pivot, again, back to this idea of we want to build something what customers want. And customers wanted our iOS engineering design skills. And that's what, we built the company with.
And how far the company scaled before you received any acquisition offers?
So what happened was 2015-ish, Sumit and I were like, look, we have never raised money. We don't know where we stand. Because when you raise money, you know the valuation and you know your equity. So you can figure out where you stand. We never raised any money, so we didn't know where we stand. So we were like, it would be good to see what's the interest like. And I remember, even our M&A broker or the company we used, he was so good. I think he generated close to 6 offers in 2 to 3 weeks.
And how did you find that broker?
So I knew the founder 2-3 years before, and I kept in touch, and I was like, look, I'm not sure whether to sell or not, but we definitely want to run the process and see what happens. And fortunately, we landed with 5 to 6 offers. And in fact, I went to New York along with Sumit, And we almost finished our first pitch meeting. And our second meeting was like probably 15 minutes away walking in New York. And it was about to start. And our first meeting got late. And my calendar invite popped up that meeting. And this was a competitor, to the first acquirer we were pitching to. And they like that meeting popped up. And there were like 15 people in the meeting along with me and Sumit. And we are all looking at each other and smiling that the next meeting is with their competitor, right? But honestly, when I look back, this all happened for good because I think it created like some level of FOMO or whatnot.
Wow. So you were projecting on your computer screen.
Yeah.
And then the
calendar invite popped up that the next meeting is with Omnicom.
And the first meeting was with?
The first meeting was with MDC Partners, who actually bought, equity.
And how soon did they close the transaction after seeing that pop up?
I think so. We were also lucky there that when we ran the process, for 2-3 months, not running the process, once we got the LOI, we had unbelievable traction in the market. We onboarded close to 3 to 4 clients in 3 months, Fortune 500 clients.
So when you started the acquisition of the process, what was the revenue back then, 2015, 16?
I think 2015, 16, we were close to 10 million in revenue.
And some EBITDA.
3 million in EBITDA. So that was the scale back then. And we fortunately, our track record was very good, and the deal closed in like 3 months or something.
And the first deal size was 60 million, where they acquired 60% of the company.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. So they gave a 6x revenue multiple.
Yeah, and look, the big thing was iOS was hot, right? But we were a services company, so we knew that limitation.
Yeah.
And there were some accelerators in place. Like if we hit a certain milestone that year, then the valuation will increase and, there'll be a catch up.
Okay.
Right? So we kind of hit all, milestones.
But that would have been big, right? So it would have landed both you and Sumit with more than 15 million each.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big outcome for us. And truth be told, my bank balance was sometimes 4 figures and 5 figures for the longest time. And that obviously creates a lot of deep insecurity.
Even after having 3 million in EBITDA?
Yeah, because, we were pouring a lot of that money back in the company.
Okay.
I think Sumit and I, we were probably one of the cheapest employees in the company, even after running it for 7 years.
And how big was
years.
the company in 2016 before the acquisition?
I think 2016, same, close to 10 million or so.
No, team-wise.
Team-wise was maybe I don't know, 50, 70 people, something like that, and we had a team here in Redwood City and we had a team in Bangalore.
Okay. So I assume the first thing that you would have done is bought houses.
That's obvious. In fact, the first thing I did was go to the ATM machine and take the receipt of the bank balance.
So it doesn't disappear.
That's what I did.
Yeah. Wow. That must have been a fantastic feeling.
Yeah, it's the feeling is I think when this happened, we could not believe that this is happening because we never saw that kind of money. And I would say that also helped us become more of a risk taker and go aggressive and, go all in or go home, and which, obviously helped us in the next 7-8 years.
And you ran the company for 6 more years before the final acquisition at 350 million happened. Tell us more about that part.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things I believe in is even when you are successful, you have to go through the pivots. Okay. And even if you're a scaled company, there is competition, your services will get commoditized, clients will be confused. Why do I use you, versus 3 other competitors? iOS engineering was one of the hottest skills, like AI engineering is today in 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, right? Like hiring them were almost impossible, right? What started happening around 2017, 18, um, when you are offering something which used to be hot, a lot of people get into the market and clients are confused. Why would I hire you versus this company, which is offshoring everything and giving me such a great price? So what we did was our strategy was there are two type of competitors, right? One is only US. Their services are great, but they're very expensive. And one is they're offshore. They're very cheap, but their services are not good. And our strategy was how do we, come up with a strategy which is in sync with big clients, Fortune 500 clients. In fact, in one all hands, I was so frustrated that I told the entire company, look, if we don't have repeat business, we don't have a business.
This is after the acquisition.
This is around the acquisition because we were getting a lot of inbound clients, but the strategy is if let's say your first SOW is at 100K, how do you grow to 1, 2, 3, 4 million? And if the client churns out at like less than a million, well, then there's a heavy cost involved in like bringing on a new client, right? And that became a cornerstone of our business. In fact, some of the clients have stayed with us over 6, 7, 8 years. And each account was worth maybe over $70 million, sometimes over a 7, 8, 9 year period.
So you're saying they paid $70 million over 8, 9 years?
8, 9 years.
And what was the absolute highest that one client paid during 1 year?
Close to 18 million.
That was same iOS services?
No. So that's the thing, right? Like when it comes to pivot. So early on, we were iOS engineering, iOS design, which heavily got commoditized. So when we saw two competitors, one is very expensive but good, one is very cheap but not good, our whole positioning was, and this was in sync with what big clients needed. So all these Fortune 500 clients, they were feeling the pressure by one of the big tech or some startup in the valley who's like heavily funded, that they're going after them. Whether you're in healthcare, retail, doesn't matter. It's either Amazon, Apple, or some heavily funded startup. So what was the common theme across Silicon Valley startups and some of these big companies, especially like Apple, was great experience. And some of these Fortune 500 clients, whether the bank, retail, healthcare companies, I think they had decent teams, but they were not able to crack great customer experience on mobile, web, the whole connected landscape. And our positioning was that you want to work with YML if you want to like build a startup within a Fortune 500 company. And our mission became we export Silicon Valley to the world, where Silicon Valley is not a zip code, but it's a mindset. And it's a combination of innovation, design, engineering, and how do you deliver things fast rather than taking years. So that was the positioning, and that actually helped us gain clients and stave off competition. And that pivot.
But still, it was a services company building web and mobile apps. So how did you differentiate
from mobile? How we differentiated was that we have a design team here in Silicon Valley, and design is such a thing. It's very hard to offshore because it's so cultural. Just imagine if someone has not experienced Disney and they've not experienced how healthcare system works, or they've never bought an automobile insurance in their life, they can never connect with these companies. And these were our clients, some of the biggest ones. So what we realized, this is so cultural that we can offshore. And we built a 150 people design team here in Redwood City. And customers loved it. And where customers wanted to work with us for our design team, and they stuck around, because our engineering team was good and they were delivering at a cost effective price and it was sustainable, and we became almost like a startup within a Fortune 500 company.
And the value was great design.
And the value was that we will work on every connected experience which is digital for a Fortune 500 company. Let's say if it's a bank, right? The bank has multiple segments: corporate, wealth management, consumer, and there is a mobile app for each one of them. Then there is a web app, then there is ATM machine, and then there is an experience, what happens when you show up in the bank, from digital standpoint. If there's a banker who's attending to the customer, they also have to look at some digital interface. We were working on all of them, not just one thing. And how do you connect all of these things together became our specialty. And that pivot is what took us like 7x from growth standpoint from 2016.
So if this acquisition hadn't happened and you hadn't become like financially independent in 2016, what would have changed for you, or what would have not changed?
See, we ran the company cash flow positive even after the acquisition happened. So it's not like there was a need for cash infusion.
Or they gave you more money to hire people? No.
We never had any need of cash infusion. But I think the biggest unlock was being fearless and go all out and capture the market.
What was the motivation? Because now you had made money, right? And you had only like 20% equity each in the company.
See, the motivation is how do you, build something which can impact a lot of lives, whether it's customer, whether it's employees, and how can you like grow the company. And the cool thing for us was we are bringing such kind of design and engineering to fruition, which was never done before because it was iOS. And that was satisfying for us. And we both were engineers and building stuff is what we did. And the motivation was to build a company, which is not just a lifestyle business, but over like 500-600 people. And, you're catering to big clients.
Yeah. So I believe there could have been another motivation, which was personally challenging yourself. That, hey, you took a company to 10 mil ARR. How soon can you take it to, let's say, 50 mil ARR?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest thing was when founders are not financially secure, and let's say they put in 5-6 years in the company, they become so fearful as
this is 100% of what they own.
Yeah. This is 100% of what they own. They cannot let it go because they've put in so much time. They cannot let it go to zero. They become very fearful and they try to optimize for the downside rather than the upside.
Yeah.
And when you are financially secure a little bit, then what happens is you go all out. And that is where, you grow the company.
Some other VCs believe that it makes you super comfortable.
And that's why you don't want to like take massive amount of money off the table, because then, you don't have skin in the game. But at least you want to be financially secure where, you can go all out.
There's a very fine balance that you are saying.
That is right.
And did you guys then went all out?
So our growth from 2016 to 23 was, I think, 7 to 8 times. I think if I look at the growth over the last 10 years before I sold, we grew at like 59% as an average annual rate of growth. And there were years when we tripled the company. And then there were years, when we did not do very well. And those were the years when you have to bring in the pivot. And I would say one of the biggest pivots, which a lot of people don't talk about, is as the founder CEO, have you been able to fire yourself and rehire yourself in another role?
Did you do it?
That I think was very difficult unnatural. And I don't think any founder CEO can scale a company until they do this. And this was actually a big learning. In fact, what happens is when you hire great people and you're the founder CEO, there will be a window of time when you are like, man, all these people are so much better than I am. What am I supposed to do? And like the job I was doing, now they are doing it. What is my role now? And that is actually a great tipping point for you to work on the biggest company challenges rather than work on the same role over and over again.
But you were still the CEO of the company throughout after the acquisition?
Yes. So I was the CEO until I sold the company completely for like 13, 14 years, throughout the journey.
So what made you the final decision to sell it completely for $350 million? Did they offer it themselves or was it?
So, one of the thing was there were certain agreements that they're going to buy the remainder equity. And fortunately, what happened in 2020, February, this was the month of COVID. And technically, we were supposed to sell the equity around that time. And COVID happened. And we were given the opportunity, hey, if you want to run the company more, you can, because there was so much uncertainty, right? And we are like, as founders, and obviously as founders, you love your company, you want to like grow it more given the opportunity. And that's what we did. So we ran the company, and the company grew so much over the COVID years.
It was what, 30 million during COVID, when COVID started?
I think our peak EBITDA was $25 million.
No, but the revenue.
The revenue was close to 80 million.
But that's 2022, right?
22.
But when COVID started?
When COVID started, we were at 24.
So what difference would an outcome did it make? Like if you had sold at 24 million, what cost you would have sold it at? Was there an agreement to a revenue multiple? Or
it was an agreement on EBITDA multiple and rate of growth multiple. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell, but it would be maybe less than 60-70% of like the final enterprise value.
That's quite a significant number.
That is a significant, because if you look at those 6-7 years, if I accumulate the whole 6-7 years, I think our cash flow was close to $80 million. And that in itself is a big part of the valuation.
And if you have to do it again, what different would you have done like during the entire journey now?
I think one of the big things I wish I had done was I had experimented a lot more, early on.
I feel you never had cash, so how would you have experimented?
And that is hard. And one of the thing is like, how do you push the boundaries a little more than play a more safer game? I wish I could have done. I think we could have built, a company which was probably 5 times bigger than what we were, because the opportunity was unbelievable, during the best days of mobile.
So you're saying that you were not able to hire at the speed at which the clients were coming?
There were times when we had so many clients, or the same client was giving us so much business, that we had to decline it. Because our team, even though I think 300, 400, 500, ultimately we were 600, there were times like we were hiring as much as we could, but still we could not hire fast enough. And that, those windows are there, and entrepreneurs who, make use of those windows, they actually scale the company.
So you were saying it could have been $1 billion outcome.
It could have been, yeah, absolutely. But it's like, look, we just launched 10KR, and so I've done that with some of the best people I worked with in my life ever. So Stephen Clemens, Stephanie, Neil, Craig, They were all like heading, design, product design, content, sales. And, some of them left after the acquisition, and we were just discussing what's next. And we launched this. And the whole idea here is that we are building great. So it's at the intersection of product design and engineering. It's all merging. In the pre-Chat GPT era, to build a product, you have to hire designers and you have to hire like UX researchers and engineers, iOS, Android, front end, React. Then you have to have product managers. It becomes like a pretty big team. And our bet is that with AI, you don't need so many people. You can build the same product in a more cost-effective way with amazing people who are specialists in their craft, and you can build faster. And that's exactly what we are doing in 10KR, where we are building, great product with our own, IP GPTs, and we are using off-the-shelf like AI products which are best in class for design, for engineering, and so on and so forth.
One of the things that I often wonder is if you had taken money from VCs during the first journey, what would have been different?
I think the outcome would have been, probably the personal outcome would have been worse for not just me, but also the people at YML.
And you had done another, you say, a mistake, right, during the journey. Like you were offered equity by companies like Credit Karma.
Oh man. Like I would say some of the biggest mistakes were the chances I did not take, which was, so we built like the first mobile product for a lot of startups. And one of the startup was Credit Karma. And Credit Karma, I think we built their first product mobile app, and we were offered, and they were also very small. This were like pre-series A company. And they were like, look, Ashish, why don't you take some equity instead of...
How much equity were they offering?
I don't remember, but I can tell you it would have been worth a few tens of million if I had taken that.
Like a couple of percentages in the company?
I don't know, man. But instead of taking cash, and my response to Ken was like, look, I can't pay rent in equity.
So this is pre-2016?
Oh, yeah. This is 2010, 11.
Okay.
That time frame.
So I think that you might have earned like 50 to 100K.
In the services.
Right?
From
Credit Karma.
And I don't know if you know, like Credit Karma was sold to Intuit for $7 billion in 2020 or 2021.
Even 1% at 7 billion is 70 million.
So it would have been a big outcome for sure.
And it would have maybe impacted your final valuation.
Absolutely. But when you are so early in your career and you're trying to build a company, bootstrapping it, you don't take such chances because you never know what's going to happen.
What were the other things, besides this that you could have changed or done more during the journey?
So one of the things I've realized is it's like when you look at leadership, right? When founders are building companies, they don't think about leadership, culture. They're just focused on building the business, which obviously is the right thing to do. And I was very heavy into design and sales and a little bit of engineering. Like my co-founder was probably running most of engineering, and he actually moved to India too.
Where is Sumit right now?
Sumit is here in the Bay Area. Yeah. And one of the things I would say is I never thought about leaderships that much. And when I look at leadership, I think it's like travel agents. They have to send people to areas which they have never gone to, right? And I feel like I operated as an individual contributor, even though I was a CEO for like the longest time. And I feel like I could have done that differently, where like I'm focusing or investing more in building or coaching the team rather than working and grinding myself.
But I have a different school of thought there, right? Vinayak, who's leading a production for the shoot here, right? And Vinayak have been working for 10 years. He joined my first company as an intern.
Mm. Mm.
Uh, Very grateful to him for this 10-year partnership. My co-founder from my previous company, he became head of engineering for one of our portfolio companies. Like co-founder for 13 years. So I didn't do anything special or did anything coach, but what I think I might have done is done right by actions.
See, no doubt about that. And with the ChatGPT era, you have to go up and down very fast.
Yeah.
But I think the people or founders who do it for the first time, their ability to go up, it takes a while, right? They are at the ground level for a long period of time before. And if you're scaling fast, you have to go up and down. And what I'm saying is, I remained at the ground floor for a long period of time.
So my only regret is my first acquisition was not really a great outcome. So I couldn't create wealth for me is a separate thing, but for my team.
Well, man, it's luck is also a very big part of it, right? Like, how do you? That is, the timing and all those things.
So that's one of my big focus area for Neon. Like, how do I create like wealth for the entire team that is working for it?
It's gonna happen, man. Like, there's a reason I have 7x my investment into Neon. So I think you guys are doing a lot of things right.
Maybe you can tell like what made you invest in Neon and what made you do it.
So I remember I moved to Bangalore.
Yeah.
Right. I met with you, and when I met you, I kind of felt the same when I was building YML, where you're scrappy, you're like doing deal flow, and you created your office within your home.
Yeah.
And these are not like pretty things, but that's what the founders have to do, right? And whenever I asked you any question, right? Like, and this is just my style of investment, which is sometimes I invest and I try to like observe the founder, how consistent they are, right? Like, they said something, they'll do, and then did they do it? And if they failed, it's okay. But did they have a good reason of why they failed, what they learned, how they are not going to do it? Like, one of the things I observe is if people who can think something and they say something and then they do something, if all of it is in sync, I have deep respect for those people, right? And I think you remember I had like a deep dive with you for 2 hours. I'm like asking every detail of, like, how much have you invested in the company? Why did you choose this company? Why did you not choose this company? How do you manage cash flows? What are the challenges? And what I realized over, the past 1 year or so, you've been consistent, and which I love. And another thesis was how you go early with startups, and you are also taking some chips off the table until they go IPO or, wherever they go, which obviously is a good idea in my opinion.
Yeah,
because with the ChatGPT era, the risk is massive, even for highly scaled companies. So, your thesis is very good.
Yeah. Thanks, and super grateful for the partnership.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
I'm grateful for your friendship rather than,
absolutely.
Super grateful for your trust in Neon with, your hard work.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think you guys are going to crush it.
One thing I wanted to check with you, right? How you have done post your making your money in public markets and private markets? Like, can you share some numbers for our audience too?
So I would say when you talk about money, right? Like what money does, right? I
maybe
think
you can start with what
what money
enabled for you.
What wealth enables. And so after leaving YML for 2 years, I did nothing. 1 year I was in Bangalore, moved there with the whole family. And what I've realized is what wealth or money does to you is, unlike a lot of people who think wealth changes you, in fact, I believe wealth makes you even more of who you are, right? But then you don't have to pretend, and you project who you are already. Like, for instance, if you are, a decent human being, you become even better and you become more generous, and that's who you are. And the opposite is also true. um and I think what wealth does is gives you the freedom to pursue what you want to do rather than what you have to do. And most people, unfortunately, they are in a job because they have to be in a job rather than they want to be in a job. So so that's, I think that's, the hallmark of wealth, in my opinion. And as Warren Buffett says, that like 99% of what he does, most people can do, right? Maybe like his private jets and some of the other luxuries he has, very few people can afford. But at the end of the day, how important is that?
Yeah.
Right? So that's what the deal is with wealth. And when you talk about like public markets and private markets, um, I feel wealth generation is, you may earn money through your job, equity, whatever it is. But if you can compound wealth over a long period of time, I think in a lifetime, if you live like an average person, you can build a lot of wealth, in my opinion. Like, for instance, I've been very exposed to public markets, and I've done over like 60 investments in startups and stuff. And my strategy has been that how do I take concentrated bets in public markets, which again can be risky. And I've realized like investing in public markets is a game of stomach more than brain. And if you don't feel great about your investment during drawdowns, then you should not be investing like that, right? Like, and people who can double down in their investments during drawdowns are the ones who should take concentrated positions. So that, has been my strategy overall.
So maybe you can share like the top four stocks that made you the most amount of money.
I mean, the usual suspect: Nvidia, Tesla, and Meta. These three, I would say.
And when did you start investing in them?
So Tesla, I am an early adopter of all things Tesla since 2013-14. In fact, when I bought my first car, I would drive to San Francisco, and when I come back, tourists would be taking pictures,
Okay.
with the car. It was that early, right? And so Tesla is no doubt like, has done very well for me overall. And then, Meta, because I totally believe in how Zuckerberg runs Meta and
And
Nvidia.
this is from which year?
So Meta, I've been an investor since 2016-17. And, it's not like you just invest once, you invest at different stages,
Yeah.
of the whole window of time. So, and Nvidia, I have loved like what Jensen Huang has done over the years. And so I've always invested in Nvidia, but Nvidia is also a stock which has seen a lot of 50% drawdowns. And the question is, most people get scared during that time, hence the drawdown. But if you can double down during that times, I mean, that's, how you can.
The common thing I found among all these three companies are they're still founder run.
That is actually
Is
very
that
true.
your strategy?
That is absolutely a big part of the strategy because number one, they own a big chunk of the equity. And number two, what I've felt is founder CEOs, they are not trying to do political things.
Like shareholder maximization.
Like they are going all in with their beliefs rather than show to the world how great they are or play it safe. And it has been proven over and over again, right? Whether it's Steve Jobs, Jensen Huang, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, they have turned things around during crisis.
But one thing to remember about these companies is like they were private companies like not very long ago,
Correct.
especially Tesla and
Correct.
Meta.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that has been a, I would say it's like, if you can make concentrated bets, that's great, but it's very hard to handle drawdown times. And if you can do that, just put it in SP 500, S&P 500. I think 95% of the people cannot beat S&P 500 today.
And, like how much IRR would you have delivered till now in the last 6 7 years?
I think my public market returns have been close to like 19-20% IRR. And again, I don't think I've done, you know, rocket science here. It's Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and Jensen Huang has made me a lot of money.
So Ashish, there's a popular thinking that becoming a founder has become easy in the AI era, but you think that building a business has become more tougher. Why is that?
So I think building products have become easier. Time to market is easy, which means you can get an idea to the end goal very fast. The reason why I feel building a business is tough because the bar of success has moved up
What do you mean by
significantly.
that?
Anytime you launch an AI
Yeah.
product, the consumer or anyone is like, why can't I do it with the chat GPT? And that's actually great, right? Like if your product is not 10x better than chat GPT and it's just 1 or 2x, you have no chance. Because the muscle memory of people is like, I'm just gonna go to chat GPT. And it's like, yeah, it's better, but it's not that good. So I'm just gonna not going to use it. Right. Like, in fact, I am I'm launching another startup right now, which is on this thesis, which is um, today, when you look at, there are three things which has progressed AI, which is data, compute, algorithm. I think a lot of data is already out there. Compute and algorithm is leapfrogging each other, which is why you see Chat GPT 5, I mean GPT 5 and O3 Pro, and like,
Yeah.
it will keep happening. It will keep getting better. But if you look at AI businesses which have done very well, from monetization standpoint, one is coding agents.
Yeah.
We know it has done well. The second is this bucket of companies who
Data
are
labeling.
data labeling, annotation, data eval sets, which is Scale AI, Surge, even Brain Trust is actually doing pretty well. But beyond that, there's not a whole lot of, business success other than like, product and all. And I believe that, when the transition, what AI has enabled, I don't think we have landed the plane on it yet. And that is the big opportunity is instead of workload, it is offering work getting done, right? And that's one of the things I am actually exploring, where I feel that if you look at a sequence of work, right, let's say there are 5 people involved, and the 5 people go in and out, and their input and output, they work with each other, and then at the end of it, the work is done. I believe that a big chunk of that work, there will be, let's say 50 to 60% is done by agentic system. And let's say there are 5 jobs involved. Instead of 5, they will all merge to maybe 2 jobs. And but this still there will be people who will be required to make sure the fidelity of the job is high, because there's still challenges of hallucination and all that in AI. And I think that is a big market which will be unlocked, and that's what I am working on, where I'm combining 2 3 jobs and I'm offering that with an agentic layer, and let's see how it
Human in the
goes.
loop services.
The human in the loop, I think the human becomes lot more scalable, and I'm not talking 1 or 2x, I'm talking 10x, 20x.
But it's a services company, right? At the end of the day.
No, so here's the thing. I think what happens is today you have human in the loop, but in 1 or 2 years, that human may not be in the loop, but the people who will win the game 2-3 years from now are people who are on that journey and who have built great businesses, in that particular vertical, rather than thinking about what's next when the human is not required.
Give me an example, like why?
Like, for instance, today, if you look at, let's say, financial analyst, or executive admin, right? In an executive admin job, there are different functions, whether it's, inbox shadowing, whether it's expense reimbursement, travel booking, and calendar.
Yeah.
Inbox shadowing is a harder job because you have to understand company priorities, relationships, this, that. Calendaring is also challenging, where you have to understand conflict management, priorities, who's important in the meeting, time zones. But if you have human in the loop, you can, at least the agents can do the simple, calendaring, not like multi agent, multi time zone things. And then expense reimbursement totally can be done by, agentic solution. So if you look at this job, it can very well be that there's a chief of staff, an executive admin, and personal assistant combined together, and the agents are doing the simple transactional task, and you'll have like a
So you believe people will outsource this three functions into one to AI services company?
AI. I don't want to call it AI services company, but definitely, it will be a new genre of
Okay.
whether the human in the loop is provided by the service or provided by the company itself. I don't know, but like, I know that that's going to happen. Like, even if you look at customer service today, right? It's not like these companies are launching things and like you don't need customer service. The customer service people are the human in the loop.
Yeah.
So it's not about like offering the human, but there will be human in the loop.
Yeah.
So that's how I am thinking about
But
like building.
our enterprise validating it, because the first company that you built, right? You for 3 years built wonderful apps, but then companies came to you to tell you the truth that, hey, we want the same quality of apps that you have built, but for our for own purposes.
Correct.
Can you build that?
Yeah. See, that's where I believe today is like a lot of AI companies, they're getting great funding and they are, building great wrappers around LLMs. And look, they're going after good use cases, which is the reason they're getting good traction. But I feel if you don't create enough of a deep expertise in a certain area, ChatGPT, Anthropic, they are going to cut into you, which you are seeing probably with coding agents. Windsurf and Cursor, clearly they have grown very fast. But I expect ChatGPT and Anthropic are not going to sit around and like, just hear the music. So, and that's going to happen with a lot of startups, I feel. So that is one. And second, I would say is like, I don't think ChatGPT, whose ambition is AGI at the end of the day, they are going to focus too much with human in the loop.
No, I personally think Chat, GPT, like OpenAI, and Anthropic are the most hungry companies the world has ever seen, because they're going to eat forward and backward revenue, and their goal is to become like $10 trillion companies.
I agree.
What it means is they'll become themselves the cloud companies also. They'll be like when Sam Altman has built a nuclear plant. So
Yeah.
the next step is to build a cloud company.
Yeah.
So they'll build their own cloud services, cloud companies, and they'll build their own applications also. That's the only way.
I mean, that's how you build moats, right? If you have just one part of it, it's easier to go up against you. But ChatGPT is certainly like, once in a lifetime type of a company which is built. So I agree with you. But at the same time, the big techs are also like, look at like how much transition happened in Google over the past 1 year. This is the first time someone has challenged them. in a way where they are transforming their, organization in a big way. I believe that the startups who are building deep expertise in a smaller vertical are the ones who will do very well rather than going after broad,
So
you
you're
know,
saying the horizontal ones might not be able to.
might not be. And even if they find success, I think the success may be short lived because they will face massive challenges from Anthropic and ChatGPTs of the world. That's what I think. And also one more opportunity I'm seeing is today we hear a lot about agentic
Sure.
solution. It's everywhere on social media, and obviously it's an obvious opportunity. But what not a lot of people talk about is building agents who can do meaningful work is very hard because it lacks context.
Yeah.
It doesn't have enough data, and how do you train an agent like day one where they are very effective in a certain task? No customer will use it unless they have some level of efficacy, which honestly is very hard. Today, we talk about like LLMs are so, powerful, which they are, but how do you test the boundaries of that power is by creating synthetic data or real data, and you keep iterating, and you see that like beyond this LLMs can't go, hence you add annotation, hence you fine tune the models. But like this whole iteration and providing real data or synthetic data, this whole infrastructure is not very mature. Hence building an agent, who's like 3 years old is easy, but building an agent who's 18 years old, it's hard.
So you're saying the agent is as good as the data that it operates on, and
Data in real world scenarios. It's building like a deep research agent is done by OpenAI or ChatGPT. So it's hard to build a real business there because ChatGPT will go after that.
no, amazing thoughts on that. The world is yet to play out. I think the next
Yeah,
3 4
and
years are the most exciting years because in such the turmoil maybe you had seen in the internet era, the highest amount of wealth gets created in an ecosystem.
100%, man. In fact, I'm feeling the same. In 2009, 10, 11, like iOS engineering was the hottest thing on earth, right? Right now it's AI engineering, of course. And, we are also trying to build our team here and we are hiring AI engineering, and it's not been that easy. Like finding the right person, because anyone who says they have experience in AI engineering for the past 10 years, I don't know how much I can believe them, because the field is so new, right? And someone who has actually built great products for the past 2 years, there are very, very few people.
Yeah, that's why there are only 100 engineers who have like done extremely deep work across these
Of
few set of
course,
companies.
these are the AI researchers where everyone is going after them. I mean, they're like a startup. Each person is a startup in itself. So
But super cool, Ashish.
yeah,
I
man.
enjoyed a lot, learned a lot in this entire process of researching about you, doing this conversation. Though I have known you for a while, but the facts that I'm amazed.
No, I enjoyed our conversation too, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.